V and JK have recently been seen in Hawaii, and not necessarily seen recently, but it's a photo that was recently posted of them in Hawaii a long time ago. Judging by the hair, this was likely well before the military enlistment, and apparently it was captioned saying that V wanted JK to be there, and then JK arrived. A lot of people had a lot of reactions about this. To say that it's easy for V to summon JK by just saying that he wants him to be there, and that's obviously not true, as you can't say that you just want someone to be there and then they'll be there. But if JK's not doing anything and he has a few days off for a week, he probably would fly to Hawaii just to hang out with someone. A lot of people forget that people who are rich, the idea of having money is not something that they think about, but also distance isn't really something that they think about either. There are definitely people who would go on day trips to LA and then come home in the evening if they're just from New York. And I've seen people do that who aren't even necessarily considered rich, but maybe like upper middle class, who will just like fly to Chicago, go see a museum, have a full day there, and then come home in the evening. And so you have no idea where JK was, if he was in LA and if he just happened to fly over to Hawaii and it was just a couple hours, or if he was even already in Hawaii and then he was just like, well, I might as well stop by and meet V for a little bit and hang out. People are also using the photo and this moment to say that the two are dating or that they're in a relationship and that they would do anything for each other and that they would fly to see each other. And I think some of those things are true. I think they would do anything for each other and I think that they would fly for each other, but I don't think that this is something abnormal and that is something that is reserved simply for romantic relationships. I think you can have friends that you go fly to see, and I think when you're someone as wealthy as they are, they can make a day out of it. It wasn't long ago when V went to Jeju, right? And that was around the time people had that dating rumor with him and Jenny. And getting to Jeju isn't just something like you take a bus and go or whatever. You have to fly there. So he took a flight and then came back that evening. That's a thing people do. It's something I've never ever done myself and something that I couldn't see myself doing anytime in the near future, but I can imagine people going someplace and not being a big deal because they're just coming right back that night. It's almost as if they're just going to the store or going to the mall on the other side of town because flights literally just take an hour and a half. And if you're rich, you might not have to do the whole check-in process, or you might even have your own plane where it literally wouldn't even be a thing. This situation where you just have to go through the airport and that takes a few hours or whatever, you can just literally fly and then come back. There was another photo, since we're talking about photos and videos that went viral, and this one was very interesting. Not too long ago, we got a feeling or an inkling that the boys were filming Are You Sure in Jeju and that V, Jimin, and JK were going to be there. This is very cool, however, it's just a theory. And then I think now we know that this is actually true and it is happening or had happened. And now we're seeing it. And now people are talking about a photo that was on the wall of the restaurant that all the boys were at. And the photo was a signature with JK and V. People thought this was weird because they were asking where Jimin was in this situation. Was he there? What was going on? However, a lot of people have theorized and come to the conclusion that Jimin was indeed there. He just didn't sign his own signature. And this is not a strange thing, by the way, and I think people think that it's strange when a celebrity may opt to not make themselves known. And this is strange to me because there are times or days or specific reasons in which you might not want to be known. I don't know the exact reason behind this, whether he just didn't feel comfortable with people knowing that he was at a specific restaurant or that he liked this specific restaurant, or him feeling like he didn't want to endorse a specific restaurant, or just maybe even feeling like the food wasn't something that he enjoyed. And it doesn't mean anything bad, right? It's not his taste, right? There's plenty of objectively good restaurants, but I just don't like the food there. So obviously if I was them and didn't like the food, why would I endorse it? And I've also seen this a little bit with other things such as live streams and that sort of stuff, where sometimes the members will hide from the stream because it's like, let's say JK's on the stream and then another member comes in, but he doesn't want to be seen on the camera. So he's just kind of hiding away. And then the chat is like, why don't so-and-so come on the stream, or blah, 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 or why is so-and-so hiding? And it's not even about that. It's not even about that they hide or they're camera shy, obviously not. But sometimes you just don't want to face the world. You just don't want to do something and then be all over tomorrow's headlines. Maybe they just don't have makeup on. Maybe they just feel like their face doesn't look right because they're tired. Maybe they just don't have enough energy. Maybe they just don't feel like being social. So they're just kind of like, I don't want to hop on to say hi to a bunch of people and then leave. But from the signature, people had taken that V and JK were alone at dinner, and the shop was basically exposing that the two were in a relationship together. Hence why they were going to dinner alone together, because Jimin isn't there. So what other reason would they have to go to dinner without Jimin? And again, as I alluded to a little bit earlier, you don't need a reason to not to come out. Jimin could have been super tired and you just and just wanted to hang back at the apartment hotel. Or he was there and, as I said, he just didn't feel like endorsing the specific restaurant. There's always a reason for these things, and I guarantee you they're not as nuanced as you would think. And they definitely are just easier to understand. You just kind of think of them as human beings. Sometimes we say no to going out to a party. Sometimes we say no to making an appearance, and that's okay. That's our right to do that. They also have a right to do that for whatever reason they want. It could just be literally that reason. This next story I want to talk about, I don't know if I actually want to include titles of the book that I'm talking about or any specific references to anything, because I don't want to kind of bring more hate to this person or whatever it is. And quite honestly, I don't think my opinion is going to be hate, but perhaps bringing attention to the situation could bring hate. However, I think this is a situation that's very important to talk about. And so I want to talk about it. There was a book that was initially believed to be written as V and JK's romantic fantasy book. So the way I saw this was that it was similar to like the Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey situation, where maybe someone was watching Twilight and then decided to be inspired to write a fan fiction. And this was posted on a fanfic website and people had read it. So it got a lot of attention. So I guess the author decided to make a full book. Now the book has since been published. There's been a lot of backlash because it was believed that they initially used the members' real names, and those names have now been changed or altered according to the author's post on Twitter, because there was a lot of backlash on using the boy's real name. There was also some issues because according to this fantasy, it allegedly made Jimin look bad. It made him look like a villain. There were then multiple comments insulting and attacking Jimin, saying that he's an awful person and that JK should attack him and blah, blah, blah. Now, I will say something that will be a little bit controversial, but I don't believe there's anything wrong with making any particular person a villain in a fantasy. If there are people taking it the wrong way and taking it to the next level where they are attacking any specific member, it's not the person who is writing this harmless story that should be the one that's being attacked. Because at the end of the day, anyone who reads the fanfic is probably aware that it's a fake story. This is not news. So everything that happens in that story, whether Jimin is portrayed as a terrible person, is a fake story. Did not actually happen in real life. The real person who needs to be evaluated are the people who are reading a fake story and believing that it's real. Even if this author did decide to not change the names in her book, that's fine, because there are going to be people who are named V, JK, and Jimin. These are real names that exist in the world. So the fact that she wrote this, I think, is totally fine. And to attack people who write stories as opposed to attacking the people in the comments is actually what the issue is to me. The community loves to target content that makes people act badly instead of targeting the actual issue, which is that the community is acting badly. Why? Now, I couldn't tell you exactly why the community sometimes acts in this crazy way or decides to send death threats towards Jimin or decides to say awful things towards him, but that needs to be figured out. I'm not going to be the one to do it, but Jimin getting hate is not from a book being written about him and a fantasy book. It's going to actually be from people who are literally insane and for some reason need to take the fantasy as nonfiction and reflect their emotions towards an actual person. Like, those people need to go to therapy. I don't usually defend V and JK's fanfics or stories. Like, I typically have my views on that. However, I will stand on the fanfic side of this story because I believe that people who are blaming the writer, it's victim blaming rather than just blaming the people who are actually sending the death threats, because the author isn't doing that, at least from my knowledge. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out Patreon for more videos. Link down below. Thanks, this will be comment right here. Love you. Bye.